Hey guys, what's up? I have been living in Sweden for a little bit more than 1 year now. In this 1 year, I have discovered some Swedish oddities that really knocked me off my feet. I thought I have to tell you, or in case you also want to move to Sweden, warn you about the oddities I have been most uncomfortable with while living in Sweden as an expat. The first topic, which I want to talk about today, is personal data. Personal data and how it is processed by Swedish authorities. A heads up right from the start, they do not feel any obligation to protect it. Okay, you certainly have already heard and read about GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation. What is GDPR? Well, it's a regulation that was issued by the European Union and came into force in 2018. It's a very detailed definition of how institutions, companies, and also authorities have to handle and process your data. For example, in the GDPR there is Article 17, which guarantees the right to erasure of personal data, also known as the right to be forgotten. Since Sweden is a European Union member state, the GDPR applies there as well. Today I will show you how your personal data is handled by the Swedish tax authority, Skatteverket, and its population register instrument SPAR, which stands for Statens personadressregister, or in Sweden it's more commonly known as folkbok. First, the Statens personadressregister SPAR includes everybody who has a Swedish residential address, regardless of their origin and citizenship. So let's take a look at the SPAR website and their stance on data protection. Now I have opened the website of the Statens personadressregister SPAR. And here is the page about processing of personal data. The Swedish Tax Agency is the data controller for the personal data processed in SPAR. That's what I've already mentioned. Why do we process your personal data? The legal basis for processing personal data is to perform tasks of public interest and as part of the exercise of authority. The Swedish Tax Agency also has a legal obligation to process personal data. So that's how they feel about it and how they justify what they are doing. Do we pass on your personal data? Information in an authority's register is usually a public document in terms of public access. Public documents of an authority are public and must be disclosed upon request. Well, that's kind of interesting, because in general I agree with them that in a democracy public documents of an authority are public and must be disclosed upon request. However, we are talking about personal data, and I don't think that personal data is a public document. Not at all. It's rather private information, but they, like you can read here, regard it completely differently. I would say in general in Sweden they have an interesting interpretation of the law. And then a little bit further down they even mention your rights. When we process your personal data, you have rights under the EU General Data Protection Regulation. And they even are aware of the EU GDPR, which makes it even funnier. so they are aware. And every country, every government of an EU member state has to follow these regulations. So that's compulsory. And here they write, you cannot be deleted from SPAR. As a private individual, you have the right to be forgotten under Article 17 of the EU General Data Protection Regulation, which means you have the right to have your personal data deleted from registers. However, this right does not apply if the processing or registration is part of an official exercise. The Swedish Tax Agency, as an authority, has a legal obligation to keep registers within, among other things, SPAR, and this means that your personal data cannot be deleted from SPAR. In the end, they also take a very interesting stance, which says freedom of expression takes precedence over the protection of personal integrity. And honestly, I have no idea what these two fundamental rights share with each other. So now that you are aware of how the Swedish Tax Agency treats personal data, I will present you the two most popular websites run by Swedish private companies, which make the personal data collected by SPAR accessible to everyone, not only in Sweden, but actually in the whole world. The first website I'd like to show you is ratsit.se. And don't worry, this is not a hidden website found somewhere in the darknet. No, this is a totally legal public website, and Ratsit, they even run advertisements in Sweden. So sometimes when I was driving on the motorway, there was a big Ratsit ad sign next to the road. So it's completely legal and public. And here on this website, you have a field where you can just enter any name of any person. I'll go for the name Jonas Helgesson because this name was actually the name of a character in my book that I wrote, Erik Backstein's Adventure. So we're gonna look for Jonas Helgesson, and as expected, this is a very common and popular name in Sweden. So you get 26 results for the name. And now I'll just click on any random name to show you how much information is revealed on this site Ratsit for the person Jonas Ingemar Helgesson. So first you have the name. Then årsinkomst, that means annual salary. You could also look that up if you have a premium subscription on this website Ratsit, if you pay for it. And then you can look it up anonymously. By the way, you don't have to be logged in to Ratsit to open this information. It's, like I said, it's public to the whole world, and you can use the site without having an account here. The next information is personnummer, that's the Swedish social security number. The first 8 digits are the same as the date of birth, which stands 2 lines below. And then the last 4 numbers, they are randomly. And here it says visas för medlemmar. So, for example, for this information, you need to log in, create an account and log in. But the other website I'm going to show you, there you can look up this for digits without creating an account. Then, like I said, age and date of birth, gender, and here, interestingly, you even find a mobile phone number. That's not the case for every person you find on Ratsit, but for some persons there are even phone numbers available. I don't know where they pull this from, because this is, I think, one of the few data that the Swedish tax agency does not collect. So, but Ratsit, they even pull it from somewhere else. And then, yeah, then on in the right column, that's interesting, because this tells you about the exact address of the person. So not just the region, like in this case Stockholm, but really exact apartment and so on. So quite a lot of information which you can obtain without creating an account, just by opening this website and entering a name. And here you have a map of the address, and you even see other persons who live at the same address. Here, fordon på adressen, means vehicles on this address. So if Jonas Helgesson had a vehicle registered in his name, then this would also appear here. Then dogs who live at the address, so even pets are registered. Yeah, basically everything you can know about any person. The second website which makes personal data collected by the Swedish tax agency accessible to everybody in the world is called mrkoll.se. So call means look up. mrkoll.se. It's very similar to Ratsit, basically offers the same service, but there are a few differences, and I think on Mr. Koll you even find some more information. We're gonna look up the same person as on Ratsit, Jonas Helgesson. I'll add the middle name so that we identify the exact same individual. Here at least you have to verify that you are human, which means clicking in this box. But then again, without registration, just by opening this website, you can look up any person who has a residential address in Sweden. And on the previous website, we checked this person who was 37 years old. So I'll click on this again. And you find the address that you already had. And then the social security number, Personnummer. We said on Ratsit you had to be logged in to look this for randomly generated last digits, but here I can just click, and then it says that your IP address will be collected, but I think that's something you can live with, and otherwise just use a VPN. But the website is public and absolutely legal, so nothing to worry. And voila, here you have the last 4 digits as well. Furthermore, on this website you can see the history of where Jonas Helgesson lived before he moved to this address, which was just in July 25. Maybe I can translate this page so that you understand it. July 2025, he moved in here, and then click here to see where he lived before, and voila, you even find out the previous address. It's so crazy how much information you find on this website. And here That's something you have to pay for. That's about court cases that he might or might not have been involved. But if he has been involved in any court cases, criminal records or litigation cases, then you could also look this up. However, you have to pay a little bit for this to unlock it, but that's 39 Swedish krona, which is basically nothing. It's like 3 euros. Then again, you can check vehicle ownership. Phone number, interestingly, they did not find out the phone number like Ratzi did. And again, the corporate engagements where he is a board member, the dogs. And here, like on Reddit, you could look up the annual salary. But here again, you have to unlock it by paying for it. And this is just the average income in the area. So that's not Jonas Helgeson's income, it's the average income in the area. So this is more statistical information and not specific for a single individual person. I was actually quite shocked when I found out about these websites, because since I'm living in Sweden, it concerns me as well. And like I said, there are many more similar sites to Ratsit and Mr. Call who offers the same services to look up random persons for whatever reason. And all this is possible because the Swedish tax agency claims that personal data is like a public document which has to be provided upon request. So here you have the official website of the Swedish tax agency Skatteverket and what they offer concerning protected identity. For a start, they do not grant protected identity to everybody who applies for it. So it's not just a simple formality, but it has to be well reasoned. You have to give a good explanation. For example, it's granted if you have been subject to violence or threats. However, if you only refer to the GDPR and claim that the GDPR gives you the right for protected identity, they won't accept it. So what is protected identity granted by the Swedish tax agency? First, there are 3 types. The first one is protected population register data. And this is basically you get a fake address under which you are registered in this SPAR. Then the second option is a confidentiality marking, which alerts government agencies to the need for a thorough confidentiality assessment before disclosing your personal data. This sounds rather complicated, but it's probably the most suitable case for at least getting a little bit more protection for your personal data. And it means that not only government agencies, but also private companies like Mr. Kohl, Ratsit, insurance companies, whoever, that they cannot simply access your personal data from the SPAR. And the third option, which sounds very exciting and adventurous, is new identity details, which means you are given a new name and personal identity number. However, this option can only be granted by the Swedish police, and I have no idea for which cases it can be granted. So like I said, most suitable for just getting a better protection of your personal data would be the confidentiality marking. But even for this, you have to have good reasons, and referring to GDPR is not enough, which we will also read below. You have to apply for protected identity, no matter the option. And for this, you have to fill out a form and send it to the Swedish tax agency. And they will look at it and at your explanation of why you need protected identity. And then they will either grant it to you or not grant it to you. And this page already gives examples when it is not possible to grant you protected identity. First here, or last here, which is quite relevant, if you cannot provide any evidence of your need for protection. And like I said, the GDPR is not enough evidence. And then specifically about the confidentiality marking, you would not meet the confidentiality marking eligibility requirements if you want to reduce your online exposure. So that's not enough, unfortunately. And another important requirement you have to meet is you have to move away far enough. So it means you have to get a new address and live in a new place. Otherwise, the Swedish tax agency will not grant you protected identity if you remain at the same address. So that's about protected identity. Like I said, it's difficult to obtain, and it's really more about protecting yourself and your identity than about protecting your personal data to online exposure. Swedish authorities regard it as their right and even a necessity for a functioning government to make the personal data of everybody living in Sweden available to the whole world. Keep attention. I said everybody living in Sweden, regardless of their origin and citizenship. In my opinion, in Sweden they misinterpret the democratic principle of publicity and extend it to private information like personal data. It will be interesting to see for how much longer they manage to circumvent the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. Thanks for watching.